Well, welcome everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. It is Tuesday, April 28th, and very excited to visit with everyone today about a brand new program just launching today. And it's called the 4-Week Access to Capital Program. And you should see it there on your screen. So what we're going to do is go through kind of the who, what, why, where, and how, and then open up for Q&A for those of you that have questions about this. The reason that we developed the 4-Week Access to Capital program under our 501c3 nonprofit is to offer a very affordable solution, and we'll talk about dollars in a minute, to help small businesses access capital and to be able to put together a very detailed and compliant plan to raise that capital in less than a month, in 4 weeks. So it's structured, it's step-by-step, it's detailed, and very effective. So the outcome is to have the participants to understand what the right type of capital is, whether it be debt-based or equity-based or even grant-based, and have a compliant package ready to go to funding. And that could be a loan package if it's going to be debt-based, an investor-based package if we're going after equity. So with that being said, we do want to highlight that it is available in multiple languages. At this time, it's available in English, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, and Spanish. And so, of course, this information page rests on the Smart Money Alliance website, clicking on the 4-Week Access to Capital program. And for entrepreneurs interested in participating, they're going to click here, and then they'll be able to submit an information or a request form. All right, so affordable and simple 4-week process. We wanted to keep it simple because the world is complex and seemingly getting more complicated every day. So we've reduced it down to 2 steps. A 2-step process that is completed over a structured 4-week curriculum. Now, this input was developed through current and former SBA, SBDC advisors, SCORE mentors, and business bankers. As I think you know, the co-founders of our organization all came from the SBA, SBDC world, and we all use something similar to this approach in that model, but now we've expanded it and, of course, brought it to our nonprofit. So there are 2 specific steps that's going to take place. We're going to develop the package, which we'll go through in detail, what's included in the package. It's very impressive. And literally, someone could go out and pay $3,000 to $5,000 to get a similar package put together by what's called a loan packager. And then secondly, what we're going to do is a capital match. That's a term you might not have used before, but it's taking into consideration all elements, all the unique elements of the business owner, owners, and circumstances to figure out what the right type of funding is. Now, to enroll, it is only $99 up front. Now, notice the asterisk. It's not a $99 program. It actually has 4 $99 payments, and that's just covering our cost. There's no profit to that. But the bottom line is it's very affordable to get started, very results oriented, and I think that you may find that there's a lot of small businesses that want and need access to more capital, but don't have a lot of resources to put towards it. So this is a very low cost, high value proposition offering. Let's dig into step 1, the real meat of the matter. So with step 1, what we're going to do is provide step-by-step guidance to the participants to put together a package that includes the following components. A 1-page pitch sheet. So this is different than the executive summary, which is bullet 2. The 1-page pitch sheet is if you have, it's kind of your 30-second elevator speech, right? It's a 1-pager that just drills down very effectively to what your business does, the problem that it solves, why it's unique, who its target audience is, with embedded graphs that show anticipated profitability. Very powerful to have. And in some cases, And we're going to be setting up some kind of like Shark Tank type of experiences. In some cases, that's the only exposure you get is to give someone your one-page pitch sheet. If they like that enough, then they ask for the rest of the business plan. Secondly, an executive summary. And as you would think, the executive summary is a summarization of the full business plan. We're going to dig into the opportunity description, which means we identify, well, what's the problem that we seek to address? What is our solution? What makes it unique? Who is our target market? And let's do a competitive analysis as well. So while this may seem a little academic, this is the type of thought process and diligence that needs to go into a well thought out capital raise strategy. Because when we're looking for other people to put money into our business, whether it be investors or lenders, you probably have a vision and a plan and it's crystal clear to you, but we need to kind of step back and put it in writing. And it may in fact help us kind of navigate through some assumptions that we made and have a more thoughtful, thorough analysis of the business opportunity. The fourth bullet is execution. So now we're describing to the reader our marketing plan, our sales plan, our operational specifics, and we identify even key milestones. And the way that we're setting this up is it's not just a key milestone that's put on paper. There's literally tasks that reminds us and reminders, and there's accountability there rather than just putting something on paper. You know, the old school approach was we'll just push it out and get a business plan on paper and go put it on the shelf. Now they need to be living, breathing documents. And we'll talk more about that, especially when we get to the last bullet here. Next is company information. So to no surprise, we need to identify who are the owners. What ownership percentage do they have? What's their bios? What's your management team look like? Do you have a team of advisors? Always great to have even an informal team of advisors. Your CPA, your banker, us, your capital raise partner can all be part of that advisory committee. Not meaning board of directors, which is more formal, but your team of advisors. Makes you look better on paper when you have a team of advisors assisting you. Next is the financial plan. No pun intended, but what's key are key assumptions, right? Because anybody can sit down and say, oh, I'm going to grow by X% because what I do is so great. But what a more analytical reader is going to look at is, well, why do you think that's the case? What are the assumptions that you're making? So right now in today's economic environment, you might assume, okay, we expect that all 50 states will have a controlled opening in the next 60 days. You have to make certain assumptions and state to the reader what those are. And then of course, if circumstances should change, the assumptions can change, and then we easily revise our financial projections. But I can tell you, I've worked with many bankers, and the first thing they look at are the key assumptions, because if they don't buy into what your key assumptions are for all your generous revenue predictions and your conservative expense predictions, they won't read any further. I used to do workshops, access to capital workshops, with a former banker. And his name's Brad, and we would do at least one a month, often more. And he would consistently tell the audience, probably the most important thing of your loan package is properly stating your key assumptions. All right, furthermore, of course, we want to project our revenue. We're going to project it by month. We're going to go out 36 months. We're going to also project our expenses by month. We understand the seasonality effect, right? It's very rare that a business has even revenue and even expenses throughout the course of the year. Usually some businesses are busier due to seasonality effects, and so we're going to capture that. Of course, the difference between revenue and expenses is profitability, and whether it be a lender or an investor, they care a lot about your projected profitability. No one knows for sure what the future holds, but if we don't even project to show profitability, it's a lot harder to raise capital. Now, it's not impossible, right? We can look at Uber and Lyft and a number of well-known businesses that are not profitable. But in general, it is difficult to raise capital if we can't project profitability in a reasonable amount of time. So obviously we're going to do that. What's often overlooked is we need to specifically identify what are the uses of the funds. We can't just say, oh, I need $1 million. We need to break down what is our shopping list? What's that $1 million going to be used for? We have to categorize it and be specific. And then of course, then we're going to identify where are those funds going to come from? How much is it that you're going to contribute? How much of it that we want to borrow, if any? How much we want to bring in from investors, if any? We need to be specific. So a strong financial plan. And then financial statements. And so once we have revenue and or expenses, we can start to generate not just projections going forward, but historical income statements, balance sheets, and cash flow statements. And frankly, even if your business is still pre-launch, chances are you started to spend some money on your business to get it to where it is now. And thus we can start creating financial statements. You have owner's equity contributed, for example. One of my favorites is benchmarking. Instead of just putting everything out there as in isolation without reference to how the industry is performing, we incorporate industry-specific benchmarking. More sophisticated lenders and investors aren't going to just look at your numbers in isolation. They're going to say, well, based upon your projected profitability or your expense structure, how does that compare to others in your industry? And if it's way off, either you're the next Einstein, which you may be because you got such a better model, or more than likely, you're not considering the reality of how the rest of the industry is working. So to blow them out of the water with exceptional numbers that are inconsistent with how the industry is performing is going to cause red flags. And so industry-specific benchmarking is included. And then lastly, I mentioned a moment ago, my favorite, and this is optional, it's not required, not optional like you have to pay more, but optional that it doesn't have to be built in, is instead of the business plan and projections, the package just being hypothetical, we can actually integrate in and import data from QuickBooks or other accounting software. And then that allows us to compare actual versus predicted, and also allows us to create a dashboard. So, just in your car, right? When you sit in your car and you drive your car, usually you're paying a lot of attention to the dashboard. The most important indicators or metrics about your vehicle are there in front of you. So if you have a heads-up display, what is shown right there in the windshield, your speed, that's a pretty good indicator of importance. You look down at the dashboard, you have the fuel gauge, you have the tachometer, you have other elements that's important. And so a well-ran business has a dashboard with easy to read metrics of, okay, how's my business doing and how's it doing compared to my projections? And do I need to start to change some of my future projections based upon current reality? So what an extraordinary package. Now, it's a lot, but we can get that put together in less than 4 weeks. And so that is step one. Let's move on to step two. And again, if any of you have questions, go ahead and put it into the Q&A box and we can address. Okay, so on step two, now we're going to do the capital match, because now we really have our arms around what we're going to call the project or this business enterprise. We know that how much money we need, what it's going to be used for, where we prefer it to come from, how long it's going to take to reach profitability, how much equity contribution the owner or owners have. Now we know a lot about the business, so we can build a capital match. In addition to what's in the business plan and financial projections, then what we're going to do is go ahead and pull business credit scores at no cost. We're going to pull from Dun & Bradstreet, figure out what your paydex score is, your normal payment history, if any. Same with Experian Business and sometimes with Equifax Business. We certainly can also pull personal credit reports. We do all this directly. No additional expense to the participant. And so again, that goes into our proprietary algorithms. And so now we have a full data set, and then we can make very specific recommendations based upon the circumstances of the client. Because in many cases, one of the biggest challenges that small businesses have in accessing capital is they don't know what the right type of capital is for their circumstances. And so they're going down the wrong path. And that's what this picture kind of shows here. We need to know where we're going before we can try to get there. So with that being said, then we can do a match, and the match could either be on an investor-based capital raise. We have access to hundreds of investors that are interested in putting money into early stage businesses, and we can help match those up. And then secondly, we can look at business loans, lines of credit, and or revolving accounts. Now, what we want to focus on the debt side is under the EIN. That's our preference, is to raise as much of the capital as possible under the EIN of the business versus being directly under the Social Security number of the owner or owners. This is a current and accurate list of the lending institutions that we have access to currently, and only listed are lending institutions that will do EIN-based funding. And this list will continue to grow. Now, down at the bottom, we made reference, certainly there are certain grants that a small business might or might not qualify for. And then SBA loans are a big part of what we do. But remember, the SBA is the guarantor, so we would still need to go through a bank to get an SBA loan. So the listing of financial institutions is relevant, not suggesting that they're all SBA preferred lenders, but the point is that grants and SBA loans can also be pursued. So what we've done is we've rolled out the 4-week access to capital program that is designed to be a very affordable entry point to work with small businesses. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions that any of you have regarding this new offering that we're very excited about. Let's see, Dion needs other languages. Right now, these are the only languages that the program is currently available in, Dion. That could change over time. Let's see. Glenn's asking in terms of, well, how does this different from the full Capital Ready program? Well, the full Capital Ready program is 10 steps, not 2 steps. There's a lot more to that one. And there are no performance fees or success fees involved with the 4-week access to capital program. So what we're doing is we're putting together the documentation and then doing a match for the participant. But what we're not doing is taking them to funding. And so that would be a big difference of the Capital Ready program. Great question, Glenn. And so the Capital Ready program continues to exist and be available. This is a low-cost alternative, especially for small businesses that are on a really tight budget, because again, they're only $99 out of pocket to enroll. And in terms of the enrollment, Peggy's asking, so we'll go ahead and click on it. So if a small business is interested, they're going to click here. That's going to take to the Contact Us page, get a little bit of information from them. And then, of course, what they're doing is they're going to click on that top, and then they're going to hit send, and then we'll pick it up and take it from there. Thank you, Peggy, for that question. And let's see. I think those are the questions that are relevant to the topic here. So let me summarize. I'll stop the recording and we'll continue our general discussion. So the 4-week access to capital program, now available exclusively through our 501c3, 4 weeks to complete or less, 2-step process. Step 1 is building the package. Step 2 is the capital match. All right, so with that, let's pause the recording.